Chapter 10. Adelmo turned to Nick with a curious expression, his eyebrows raised in amusement. "What was that?" he asked, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Do you have a thing for the waitress?" Nick chuckled, shaking his head in response. "No, it's not like that," he explained. "She actually likes me, so I enjoy teasing her a bit to get a reaction out of her. It's all in good fun." Adelmo couldn't help but laugh at Nick's explanation, though he couldn't deny that it was a little mean-spirited yet undeniably funny. "Well, you certainly know how to keep things interesting," he remarked, still chuckling. "But remember, don't take it too far." As their laughter subsided, Adelmo's curiosity got the better of him, and he leaned in closer to Nick. "All right, spill the beans," he said, his voice filled with anticipation. "What did you want to talk to me about?" Nick's expression turned serious as he glanced around, making sure no one was eavesdropping on their conversation. "Earlier at the office, I had to follow official police procedure," he began, his voice low and confidential. "That's why I couldn't discuss it there. You know how it is." Adelmo nodded understandingly, his eyes narrowing slightly. "So, what's the deal?" he asked, his voice tinged with curiosity. "What did you find out?" Nick took a deep breath, trying to gather his thoughts before explaining. "Well," he started, "the thing the paper mentioned is pretty much what we had already figured out. There's no other evidence pointing towards any alternative explanation." Adelmo's eyebrows furrowed as he processed the information. "So, it's just as we suspected," he mused, his voice filled with a mix of relief and concern. "But if there's no other evidence, how are we going to prove it?" Nick shrugged, a determined look in his eyes. "We'll have to dig deeper," he replied confidently. "We can't let this case slip through our fingers. We'll find the evidence we need, even if it means turning the whole place upside down." Adelmo nodded, a determined smile forming on his face. "I'm with you all the way," he declared, his voice filled with unwavering support. Adelmo responded, "So, have you discovered any information regarding the blood found on the ground?" Nick hesitated before replying, "How did you come to know that there was blood present on the ground at the store?" Adelmo quickly mentioned that he had read about it in the newspaper. Nick nodded in understanding. All they managed to determine was that the blood belonged to the raw meat packages that had been torn open. Adelmo inquired about how they had managed to ascertain that, and Nick explained that they had sent the blood samples to the laboratory for DNA analysis. This revelation seemed to intrigue Adelmo, who then asked if they had been able to identify the culprit through the DNA analysis. Nick shook his head, indicating that the results had not yielded any conclusive evidence pointing towards a suspect. Adelmo then pondered aloud about the possibility of the blood being planted at the scene to mislead the investigators. Nick considered this theory before responding that the lab results had confirmed that the blood was indeed from the torn meat packages. The conversation then shifted towards discussing potential motives behind such an act, leading both Adelmo and Nick to delve deeper into the mystery surrounding the bloodstains found at the store. Both men sat in silence for a moment, their minds racing with thoughts about the break-in at Adelmo's apartment. Adelmo, feeling the weight of the situation, decided it was time to divert their attention to a different topic. With a slight hesitation, he asked Nick if there had been any progress in the investigation. Nick sighed, his frustration evident in his voice. He admitted that they hadn't made any significant breakthroughs yet. "We're still in the dark, Adelmo," he confessed. "Whoever did this was no amateur. There were no fingerprints or any traceable marks left behind. It's as if they knew exactly what they were doing. We rarely encounter criminals who are so meticulous in covering their tracks. Usually, we can at least find some sort of evidence to lead us in the right direction." As the night wore on, the two friends delved deeper into their conversation, discussing not only the break-in but also various other cases that Nick had been working on. Adelmo felt a sense of trust and comfort in Nick's presence. They shared stories, theories, and even some lighthearted banter, trying to lighten the heavy atmosphere that had settled upon them. Despite the lack of progress in the investigation, Adelmo found solace in the fact that he had someone like Nick by his side, someone who was willing to listen and support him through this difficult time. Nick had always been amazed by Adelmo's knack for solving puzzles and coming up with innovative ideas. Growing up together, Nick had witnessed Adelmo's brilliance firsthand. As the clock struck 4 a.m., both Nick and Adelmo realized it was time to call it a night and head back to their respective homes for some much-needed rest. Adelmo quickly made his way to his house, prepared for bed, and settled down, his mind still buzzing with all the things he and Nick had discussed earlier. However, exhaustion soon caught up with him, and he decided it was best to let sleep take over. Lying in bed, Adelmo couldn't help but reflect on the stimulating conversations he and Nick had shared. Their discussions had been filled with intriguing puzzles and thought-provoking ideas. Adelmo's mind was a whirlwind of possibilities as he contemplated the various solutions they had explored together. The late hour and his weariness began to take their toll, and Adelmo realized it was time to surrender to sleep's embrace. With a sense of satisfaction and anticipation for the next day, Adelmo bid farewell to his thoughts and allowed himself to drift off into a peaceful slumber. As he closed his eyes, he couldn't help but feel grateful for the friendship he shared with Nick. Their shared passion for puzzles and their ability to inspire each other was a constant source of joy and intellectual stimulation. As sleep enveloped him, Adelmo knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges and exciting adventures, and he eagerly awaited the dawn of a new day.